Hi everyone, my name is Ben Ishimwe and I'm the student from the African Leadership University. I'm going to take you through the learning effect model, which is going to illustrate about how the learning environment might affect the learning outcomes. First of all, the brain, which is the primary part of consideration when it comes to learning. The brain is the primary control center organ of the brain or the body, coordinating learning and all the sense of commands. Then, learning is the process by which individuals acquire knowledge, skills, and competencies through experience, study, or instruction. Then, according to different scientific research, the learning environment is the combination of physical, psychological, and social conditions that influence how the brain focuses, processes, stores, and recalls information during learning. One might ask him or herself about the correlation between learning environment, learning, and then the brain. Different aspects of research had defined that learning comes as the result of the neuroplasticity of the brain, which is the change of structure of the brain. And then this as well comes as an effect of the environment into which one is located in. To mean the more good environment is, or the more important or the more supportive an environment one is in, the more effective and more productive the learning outcomes are going to come as. First of all, when one is in a more reliable learning environment, to mean with the positive relationships and the stable environment, one shows high productivity in terms of learning. The main reason to this is because when you are in a very safe and less stressful environment, this alerts it does not alert the amygdala, and then the amygdala is the part of the brain which, when it's alerted, this is going to lead to the stress rise of the brain, and the brain is going to detect that it's in a high risk zone, leading to very high fear, leading to the reduction of the operation of other brain parts like the hippocampus, in terms of which are in charge of memory retention. Students in more stressful environments show weaker memory consolidation. This is due to the effect of the cortisol, which is released during the stressful levels or during the stressful conditions, leading to the weakening of the hippocampus, which is the part of the brain in charge of memory retention and memory consolidation. Enriched environments lead to the thickening and the strengthening of the neural networks and the strengthening of and the thickening of the cortex, which are the brain parts in charge of memory retention. Then, well designed learning environments reduce the cognitive load. I mean, in this reduced cognitive load, I mean about the extraneous load type, which is due to the effect of what we see outside the body part, outside the brain. Then researchers illustrated different characteristics of what a good learning environment must look like. A good learning environment must be low stress atmosphere. It must have a well organized and low destructive area, to mean it must not be more destructive to improve and increase focus. The positive socioeconomic environment is more effective on learning, and it must as well have high sensory and cognitive stimulative factors, to mean it must be enabling and more attractive to learn within that environment. Sometimes when you're in an environment that might promote and enable you to learn, this is going to help a lot to get focus and as well as to retain memory. This is the CASP model. The CASP model was a model that was designed by Tasca in 2003, illustrating the difference and the impact of the learning environments on the brain, leading to the increased or lowered productivity of learning. Back in time, one argument was about the main argument about education was due to the age, was about the age, illustrating that when a person is young for a certain degree, those people are not really going to retain information or are not going to be good at the information due to the fact of age. But Tasker in 2003 illustrated how not only age but also the learning environment might affect a lot about what people are learning and how people are going to learn in terms of productivity. This now led to change of focus and change of argument to the impact of learning, but in terms of and in perspective of the learning environment into which people are learning. Different areas around countries, around continents, illustrate different environments and support of learning. In this, I mean educational system learning. On the left part, we can see the urban areas. In urban areas, it illustrates that people care more about the learning environments because they prepare, organize in terms of lightning, in terms of seating, as well as in all possible aspects and conditions of learning. They support learning in more deeply. But when you come back on the right side in rural areas, it's still visible that students still sit on wooden pads. They still sit in uncemented areas, in dirty, very dirty areas, which leads to the reduction in productivity of learning, leading to poor learning outcomes. Different challenges might lead to what we saw on the right part. Among these challenges, we can see limited resources and infrastructure, socioeconomic inequalities, high workload to the teachers, and the physiological stress and unsafe environments, leading to the poor learning environments to be designed. These learning environments are still very expensive in terms of the socioeconomic inequalities. Students are still from different families, and when students know that they're from different environments, and I mean economical level environments, this is going to alert stress within students. Different stakeholders still have a role to play in the design of an effective and a supportive learning environment. In that, we still see the role that might be played by the international education sectors, the local governments, as well as the parents. As we conclude, environmental conditions are still a key factor for a successful and impactful learning outcomes. In terms of improving this, we need to work as well on the learning environments. Thank you very much.